Hello and welcome to Happy Cells and Souls. My name is Julie Powers and I'm a licensed Zumba instructor and I'm a partner with the Juice Plus company. My mission in life is to help people understand that life is better when they're dancing through it and to inspire healthy living. But my expanded mission is to create better health at the cellular level and more joy at the cellular level. Because I believe that we only get one body while we're here on this earth and we have to take care of it. But we're also supposed to be happy and joyful while we're here. So we should learn to do that and spread that light and love in the world. So in my life, I have had the great pleasure and honor and privilege to know a lot of different people from all different walks of life. And I just feel like it's important for us to learn from everyone and to keep our minds open and keep our hearts open, and we can all learn from everyone. It doesn't matter where we come from, what our backgrounds are, social, political, religious, economic, it doesn't matter. We can learn from everyone. But today we get to learn from one of the masters because she has been a teacher for so very long. And it's not really possible because she's not old enough to have all this experience. But Denise Pacilli is someone who I met in 1979 when I was in 7th grade. I was 12 years old at St. Paul Lutheran School here in Farmington, Missouri. And Denise came to town and became one of our teachers at St. Paul. And over the years, that age gap of 14 years, which seemed like a massive amount of difference in our ages when I was 12 and she was a grown-up, right? Now we have become friends for a very long time, and I consider her to be one of my most cherished friendships over the years because she has been through so many things with me in that time period. And so, Denise, you have such like an incredible resume when it comes to how many kids' lives you have touched. And it's not always just about the kids, it's about the kids and their parents and the siblings and the grandparents and everyone else that's been connected to you. But you started teaching in Denver, you came to Farmington, you've been in Washington for a long time, but you actually have a much larger reach in Alaska and Oregon and Idaho as well. I mean, this is just from early childhood through college, right? You've taught it all. So tell us, how in the world did you get started with teaching? And tell me some things that you've kind of learned or experienced along the way that you might like to share with either someone who was a past student of yours, or maybe somebody who's thinking about going into teaching in the future.
Gosh, so many good questions. And I don't know how all that time went by, truly, until I start going backwards and I go, whoa, that's amazing. I was inspired to be a teacher actually by our pastor's wife way back when I was in the 3rd grade. And she had talked about teaching in a Lutheran school. I never got to go to a Lutheran school because we didn't have any near us, but it just sounded like a really cool thing to do to get to be a part of that. So I went to college with the idea of being a teacher. Went to St. John's College in Winfield, Kansas for 2 years, and then on to Concordia Teachers College in Seward, Nebraska. And my first placement was in Denver, Colorado. I'd wanted to teach little guys, but they gave me 4th graders and the music program. And so I got to teach music in all the grades and so on. And it was, here I was a new teacher, right? And they're like, we don't have anyone to coach softball. Could you do that? We don't have anyone to coach the boys soccer team. Could you do that? How about volleyball? And so, I was not an athlete, but I had done intramural sports and whatever. So it's like, sure, why not? So jumped in and learned all kinds of things. From Denver, accepted the call to St. Paul Farmington to teach 1st and 2nd grade combo and to do music. And so, I remember you vividly as a 7th grader with all your friends and cohorts and doing musicals and, all of that. St. Paul didn't have a band program. So I'm like, I could do that. So we joined hands with St. Joe across the street and invited their kids to come and be a part of our band program. So actually your little brother Scott was in my first, second grade combo when I first came. I taught Brad saxophone. Um, there's so many stories that I could
Yeah,
share
we
along.
don't want to get into the whole Ross family history here because there are way too many other family members involved. But I love that you were part of that music in St. Paul, because that was a really big deal to have this musical production every year. Because as you know, music and drama and theater is so important to the connections of the brain, right?
Oh,
And
absolutely.
so when did you actually make the switch to the early childhood program? Because you were the one who started the pre-K program, early childhood at St. Paul. And
Yeah.
so when did that happen?
Well, I taught first and second grade just for a couple of years. And then our son Brandon was born. And I kept doing music, but I couldn't be in the classroom full time because I was busy as a mom. So I did a little mom interlude there that I'd still have kids come in for music lessons in my home, so that we would keep some of those connections going. In having my own kids, I really became hooked on early childhood. And at that time, St. Paul did have a tiny little preschool program that was struggling. And the school board came to me and said, could you help us revive this program and build it up bigger and better? And I said, only if you let me use the Project Construct ideas. And so also at that time, I became connected with parents as teachers through the Farmington School District. And I did that for 14 years, kind of in and with while I was doing the classroom stuff. So that just kind of gave me that little impetus. And the school board was awesome in letting me totally create whatever I wanted to do based on that program. And so amazing as I saw this little program of 6 kids grow to 90 students by the time I left Farmington. So totally rewarding to get to be a part of that.
Right. And my son got to be part of that program before you left town and went off to Washington. So you know, you have had also experience with teaching at the higher grade level as well, haven't you?
Well, while I was with parents as teachers, they needed somebody to help with the teen moms at the high school level. And so I offered to do that. It was so disheartening to go into the high school and find girls drop out of school because they became pregnant. They had nowhere for their baby to go. They didn't trust anybody to watch their child. And so I was able to work on the task force creating the grant for the PAYS program. I don't know if it's still in existence or not, but
No,
it was a
that's correct.
project assisting youth success. And so those teen moms were very vulnerable to dropping out of school. And so we created on-campus daycare, and the moms worked in the childcare to learn how to take care of their own children, as well as learned more about child development. So I got to be a part of that and totally cheer when they graduated from high school.
I mean, what an amazing program that was. And I really don't know if it's still an active program or not in our community, but I know that there are communities throughout the country that do programs like that. And I mean, that is a really valuable system for those kids to be involved with. I mean, of course, you don't want any child to become a parent at such a young age, but if we don't give them the tools and the resources and the knowledge to be able to go and be a productive citizen and to be a good parent, then what are we doing to the next generation, right? So you have been so instrumental in making those huge impacts on, you know, so many children from early childhood up through these high school parents. That's great. Thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome. It's been a joy, and for each child to be the best they can be, and each parent to be the best that they can be.
Right, right. So one of the things that we've talked about is you left here and small town, very much, you know, kind of everybody's kind of the same here. You know, everybody sort of grew up in this little Midwest bubble, right? And then you went to Kent, Washington, and you started teaching at a school there where most of the kids were from other countries or other cultural backgrounds. Maybe they'd been in the States for a long time, or maybe they were born here, but their parents were not. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience?
Yeah, so I came to Washington. It's been 18 years ago already.
How
Totally
is that
amazing how like
possible?
my I don't know. But when I got here, there was a preschool in place. We had a handful of kindergartners, about 6 of them. And so they asked if I would be a part-time director here. I also started another preschool at a local church, and got them going. They had nothing in the past, and so got a preschool going there. Both centers totally different from each other, but splitting my time between them. Um, the school here has grown from preschool level now to adding 4th grade, and 5th grade is on our horizon. So I serve as director slash principal, but then I also teach pre-kindergarten, just because that's so much fun. So it keeps me running and it keeps me busy. But you're right, this group is a very diverse cultural group and has been so rich and rewarding, as I've watched different people from all around the world become a family with one another. It's just been incredible. So at last count, we had 20 different languages spoken amongst the 100 students at our school.
That is so incredible. And to think about, especially today, in today's world, right? So we are so connected to everyone around the globe. Like in a moment, we can be connected to anyone basically that has an internet connection, right? But yet we seem to be having all of these struggles with separation and not really inviting people into our little bubbles. And so you guys have this really amazing bubble with the most colorful backgrounds and languages and acceptance, right, of everybody. And so that's really kind of what I like to talk about in these conversations, is that if we don't come into conversations with people and experiences with people with these open minds and open hearts to just find out who they are, right? And find out something that you do connect with, and to have that respect for the other person, to be coming from a different life experience. We're not all the same.
Absolutely. And God created each of us to be unique and different from one another. And yet there's so many needs that we have that are the same. You know, we all need security and a family and trust and value. And so we're able to offer that for all of these kids, and then it spills over into their families. We started opening our playground at the end of the school day, bought some picnic tables so parents could come and have an extra recess at the end of the day. The kids are begging for more time outside, and here the parents sit down at the picnic table, and friends from people from Kenya get to sit next to someone from Thailand. Across the table is someone from India. And so these parents are becoming, I mean, it's like a United Nations on our playground as they all just chat with each other about parenting and the challenges and the joys. And it's just amazing.
That is great. That's great. Now, were you able to have in-person class during the last year, or have you been having to struggle with the at-home learning and in person?
Oh, such an interesting time.
Uh-huh.
Um, the governor in Washington last March closed all the schools. We thought it was only for a 2 or 3 week time period, but that was very naive.
Right.
So I have an amazing staff that jumped into, we can do this. So they prepared homework packets for the families. We had drive up to pick up their stuff, and we jumped into Zoom learning immediately. So they didn't even miss a day of school.
That's
We did that through the end of the school year. And then my staff became a task force to compare, what does the CDC say? What does the Department of Health in our state say? How can we make our classrooms safe? So we purchased air purifiers and disinfectant foggers and, you know, hand sanitizer stations and all the rest. We jumped back into school in person in September, meeting all of those criteria. Started a couple days a week, and now we're in person 4 days a week. We still do one remote learning day on Wednesdays just to doubly disinfect and to keep our kids tuned into How do you learn on Zoom? How do you make this
Just
work?
in
Just
case,
in
just
case.
in case, right?
Right. So we've been going strong all year.
That's really great because a lot of schools have not been able to do that across the country. And I think it's amazing, especially, that they're able to have that in-person experience as little kids, because I find that so many little ones are having trouble really recognizing facial cues and being okay with strangers and things because they don't see anybody's faces and they don't see people. So I think that's really cool. Can you tell me, all right, so I did the math, which is completely wrong because we just guessed, right? 46 years, 46 years. Let me say that again, 46 years. You and Sharon Cheryl are like amazing. And Dwayne Gieselman, right? But you've been teaching for that many years. And even if we just said it was only 25 students per year, which it hasn't been, because like when you were the director of these preschool programs and principal, you've actually had 90 students and over 100 students. And, you've had hundreds of students in 1 year that you've directly impacted. But even if we just did the simple math at 46 times 25, that's 1,150 kids in your life that you've had direct impact with, which is a very low number. I'm thinking it's much closer to the 2,000 range. Is there anything in that time that you just thought, this is the best? This is what I was meant to do here, that obviously. Tell me like a standout thought or experience that you've had along the way.
Well, it's just been such an interesting journey. And as I mentioned to you earlier, I think God's given me so many opportunities that have really stretched me. And I've never gotten bored or tired of any one of them because I'm forever trying the new thing or moving to a different level. I taught at Central Methodist for a while, teacher ed students. And that was exciting to know that I was helping teachers get on board for their future and what was yet to come. Here in Washington, I get to serve as an early childhood consultant for a 4-state region. So I have a partner that works with me and we get to reach out to other directors across the 4-state region. So it's just—
That's Alaska, Idaho, Washington, and Oregon.
Oregon. Yep. Yep. So it's just been amazing to get to be a part of all of that, and building relationships, which is really key of what it's all about. Sharing God's love with each and every one.
And you have said that, I remember a conversation once you said that what you love so much is being able to connect with former students and find out where their life has taken them. And I'm sure that in the last 46 years, you've probably received a number of phone calls, letters, text messages, emails, Instagram direct message, WhatsApp, Voxer, whatever, right? Like a message to you, thanking you for helping them to become who they are, right? And
It's really been fun. And, Facebook has been a key player in that. Students will find me on Facebook. A few years ago, my first class in Denver that I knew as 9-year-olds, they found me and they asked me to come to a reunion. And we had the most fun because we got to meet in our old classroom and our old school, which was a, Lutheran circles, a dairy barn converted into a school and church. And it didn't look any different than it was in
oh my gosh,
1975.
right.
Although all of us are looking at each other like, oh my goodness, these students are now 50 years old. I'm going, what? So totally amazing and incredible. Some of the kids in that group that they used to draw pictures of airplanes when they were finished with their work, they're now professional pilots, commercial pilots. I have students that are doctors and attorneys and college professors, and it's just truly amazing.
Well, I know that you've had a huge impact on my life, my family's lives, and that I can't imagine life without Mrs. Pacilli as part of it, right? And so we appreciate you so much. And normally I try to keep these conversations at 20 minutes, and it's been about 20 minutes. But because this is a special conversation, I would like for you, because you said you have a very huge interest in children's literature, to be able to share one of your favorite books with us. And so this is the point where whoever happens to be watching this, if you have little ones at home, or maybe you were in one of Denise Pacilli's classes in early childhood, now's the time to relive that, because she's going to read us a story. And I hope that you get to continue doing what you do for as long as you want to do it. And whatever that is, then it will be that. But if you don't, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life, right? And so I know that you love what you do. And while it's hard work and it's time consuming and exhausting and emotionally draining, if you love it, it's worth it. And so thank you, Denise Pacilli, and let us hear the story.
All right. Well, I have several books that I enjoy. And it's funny because as I read to my kids in school, I'll go, this is one of my favorites. And they're like, gosh, how many favorites do you have? But I love the books that inspire kids to be lifelong learners, to be creative and imaginative and think outside and beyond. The Molly Lou Mellon books are great for that. Jillian Jiggs is another awesome one. And if you haven't read Beryl's Box, it's amazing too. The one I was going to share with you today is called Have Fun, Molly Lou Mellon. And I'm going to see if I can turn it around so you can enjoy the pictures. Let's see if this works.
Okay.
Molly Lou Mellon's toy chest overflowed with all the whoosy whatsits of all shapes and sizes. Her grandma told her, back in the olden days, we didn't have fancy dolls or action figures. I made them out of twigs and leaves and flowers like hollyhocks and daisies. So she did just that. Molly Lou Mellon's backyard had a big weeping willow and crumbly rock walls with thingamajigs peeking out from every crevice. Her grandma told her, back in the olden days, I didn't have store-bought doll houses. We made one in our backyard. So she did just that. Molly Lou Mellon's garage was full of colorful boxes and crates. Her grandma told her, back in the olden days, I didn't have a race car. I sat in a cardboard box and I sped down the hill. So she did just that. Molly Lou Mellon lay on her back in the tall willowy grass. Her grandma told her, back in the olden days, I didn't have a television. I watched the clouds that floated by and I saw a lot of things in them. So she did just that. One day, new neighbors moved into the neighborhood next door. When Molly Lou Mellon went to welcome their little girl, she heard Gertie say to her mom, I'm bored, bored, bored. Molly Lou Mellon invited Gertie over to play. On Monday, Gertie brought her darling Darla Deluxe dollhouse, complete with an electric mixer and working chandeliers. Molly Lou Mellon showed Gertie her tree root palace, complete with acorn cap dinner plates and woven leaf air conditioning and cicada jacuzzis. Gertie was amazed. On Tuesday, Gertie drove over in her battery-operated, fully loaded Coupe de Ville. Look out below, Molly Lou Mellon screamed as she went hurtling down the hill in her turbo car made out of a box, hand-painted with orange and red flames. Gertie was amazed. On Wednesday, Gertie was going to call Molly Lou Mellon on her cell phone, but then she heard a strange sound coming from an old tin can that was dangling outside her window. This is the operator. Will you accept a call from me, Molly Lou Mellon? Yes, said Gertie, speaking into the can. Great, come on over. Click. Gertie was amazed. On Thursday, Gertie asked Molly Lou Mellon if she'd like to come over and watch cartoons on her big screen TV. It's 120 inches wide. Molly Lou Mellon said, not today, thanks. I'm going to go watch the clouds. They're sky wide. Gertie was amazed. On Friday, Gertie brought over a homemade doll with a frilly hollyhock skirt and violets for hair. It's for your palace, she said. This time, Molly Lou Mellon was amazed. On Friday evening, Molly Lou Mellon and Gertie were tired from playing all week. They laid down in the tall willowy grass looking at the clouds. I see a butterfly, Gertie giggled, and a penguin and a refrigerator. Molly Lou Mellon opened her eyes wide. She grinned her biggest grin. I see a grandma-shaped cloud winking at me. And Molly Lou Mellon winked right back.
Ah, that's great. Yes, wouldn't that be nice if all the kids learned how to create things on their own and invent and then use their imaginations instead of
Exactly.
wrapped in iPads and iPhones and Xboxes and whatevers, right? So
Definitely.
thank you very much for your time. Thank you for the special story, and thank you for being you.
Thanks for having me.